Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into a scientific analysis of a digital anomaly that is, frankly, just baffling. It's a phenomenon that really pushes the boundaries of what we think technology, and maybe even reality itself, is capable of. So it all kicks off with this video. What you're looking at are these strange, hovering elliptical shapes that just appeared out of nowhere during a video call. But the crazy part is, they weren't just some static glitch. No, they seem to be interacting, almost reacting to the person on camera. And these weren't just random pixels. People who saw it happen said these dancing circles seemed to tremble, like they had energy, and they appeared to track the user's face in real time. This kind of bizarre, almost intelligent behavior kicked off a massive search for a rational scientific answer. Now, whenever you see a digital mystery like this, the first logical step is always to blame the tech, right? The most obvious suspect here was the camera's autofocus system. I mean, could this just be a piece of normal technology acting in a really weird way? Think about your phone's camera. You know how it puts little white squares on a person's face to get a sharp picture? That's autofocus. It's a totally standard function, a piece of software doing its job. And once the focus is locked in, those markers just disappear. It's predictable, and it's completely explainable. But here's the thing. When the investigators actually compared the normal behavior of autofocus to what was happening with these ellipses, the two just did not line up at all. The ellipses popped up spontaneously. They seemed to move on their own. In other words, they were an anomaly. Okay, so to get some real objective data, the analysts brought out the heavy hitters. They used a technique called Laplacian variance. Now, don't worry about the complex name. All you need to know is that it's a powerful tool that can mathematically measure the sharpness of an image. It's a way to get cold, hard numbers on focus and blur. And the results? They were absolutely stunning. This chart shows it plain as day. The area inside the ellipsis was way more blurred than the area outside of it. An autofocus system always tries to make things sharper, right? Not blurrier. This data proved the ellipsis was doing the exact opposite of what the camera software was designed for. So the really crucial point here is that this wasn't just a glitch or some random digital noise. The analysis suggested this was a controlled, maybe even intentional blurring effect, and that led to a pretty startling new idea. What if this was evidence of some kind of external force applying a viewing mechanism to the screen? With the simple hardware explanations officially ruled out, the investigation had to go deeper. We're talking down to the digital DNA of the video itself. The team started a frame-by-frame analysis of the raw data to figure out what in the world these ellipses were actually made of. And they followed this super rigorous four-step process. First, they tracked every single black pixel that made up the ellipsis. Second, they compared frame after frame to see how they changed. Third, they started hunting for intelligent patterns. And finally, they created visualizations to see those changes over time. And the very first thing they found was a total shock. Those solid-looking black lines that make up the border of the ellipses, yeah, they weren't solid lines at all. Turns out, they're actually dynamic formations. The ellipses are built from thousands of individual pixels that are in this constant state of flux. They're appearing and disappearing frame by frame, constantly redrawing the shape. The shape isn't a fixed object, it's an evolving process. And you can actually see that process right here on this graph. It's wild. The blue line shows all the new pixels being born, while the red line shows the ones winking out of existence. This isn't a stable object. It's like a storm of creation and destruction, happening dozens of times a second. This behavior suggests that the ellipses are a lot more like fluid formations. They seem to be reacting to some kind of intelligent process that's guiding their structure, instead of just following a simple geometric rule like a piece of software would. And this right here illustrates that point perfectly. This chart is tracking the density of pixel clusters over time. See those sharp, coordinated bursts of activity? That is not random noise, folks. It suggests that a structured, non-random process is calling the shots, telling these pixels how to reorganize themselves. So let's just recap what we know. The data clearly shows the ellipses were not the camera's autofocus. And they weren't just simple lines. They were complex, dynamic formations that seemed to be under some kind of external, intelligent control. And this is where the investigation was forced to go into some very unconventional territory. This chain of evidence led the investigators to ask a brand new and pretty radical question. If this thing is intelligently controlled and it's overlaying information onto a screen, could this actually be a form of augmented reality? I mean, we're all pretty familiar with basic AR these days, right? Like the social media filters that can put digital sunglasses on your face. The hypothesis here is that the ellipses were behaving like a really sophisticated AR system, one designed to project or probe or maybe even analyze information in our world. But here is the major twist. The ellipses were not being generated by any known software on the computer. None. And that forced the investigators to consider a truly mind-bending alternative. What if you could have the effect of augmented reality without any human-made technology creating it? So even after all of that deep technical analysis, this case is so far from closed. The investigation really just leaves us with a summary of these bizarre characteristics that, when you put them all together, completely defy any conventional explanation.
Just think about it for a second. This phenomenon appears from thin air. It intelligently tracks people's movements. It creates measurable visual distortions, and it even reportedly framed images of loved ones who had passed. And then it just vanished. None of that is connected to any known software or camera effects.
And that disappearance might just be the most telling detail of all. You know, a technical glitch would probably be random, or it would keep happening. But for it to completely stop suggests a deliberate decision. It's almost as if a mission, whether it was to observe or interact or deliver a message, was finished. So we don't get to end with nice, neat answers. We end with more profound questions. Despite a really rigorous scientific analysis, we're left to wonder what these things truly were. Projections, gateways, some kind of markers from an unknown intelligence? We don't have the answers, but the data does give us one certainty. Something unexplained left its digital footprint behind.